joining us on Good Living, and I'm joined now by local author Jenny Haworth, who is just fabulous. You will have heard of Jenny before. She's doing wonderful things with publishing, but just released a new book which we'll talk about first. Jenny, welcome to Good Living.
Thank you, Donna.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, The Undone Years. This is quite a historic novel, really, and you love history, don't you?
Yes, I am basically. I studied history, and I loved it. The book actually came out of one of my first essays at university.
Really?
Which I wrote about the period of Europe after the First World War. And I became fascinated with it because, well, partly through my family too, because in that stage, women were reared to be married, and your social status and your position in society came from marriage. But at the end of the First World War, about half of all that generation was either dead, traumatised or wounded, and would never marry.
So it had a significant bearing on our history, I guess.
So it did. And so what did women do? Well, many of them became secondary teachers in schools where they had to, or primary teachers or something like that. They had to have jobs because there weren't the positions for them. Others rushed into marriage and made a mess of it, of course.
Certainly, yes.
Because after all, they didn't know anything else. So that's really the basis of the book. The two girls, one of whom is one of these young ladies who comes out of a high school and plays tennis and waits for Mr. Right, and the other one,
a local high school too,
by the way. A local high school, yes, St Margaret's College.
Right.
We can talk about that. And the other one is a girl who is an art student at the Canterbury Arts School, and she is a talented artist, and her father can see the benefits of her getting to Europe and looking at the art. So when the offer comes from the other family, he says, go. Mother by this time is stricken with Spanish flu and not able to control her headstrong daughter. So off they go.
And the tale ensues after that.
And the tale ensues after that because they end up in Paris in February 1919.
Goodness.
At the time of the peace treaties. And they have one of them has a fabulous time going to parties and dances and everything because it was like any of these major international events or masses of social functions.
That's right.
And the other one goes off and explores the art.
Goodness.
And then of course she finds there are problems ensuing, and she meets up with this chap who's partly British, partly Hungarian, and has a role which is enigmatic. And so she becomes very closely involved with him. And through that, my heroine gets to see some of the mess that's created by in the defeated nations.
That's right.
So that's really part of the story. The story is really about all that.
Now, earlier we, of course, had Liz on from the Cancer Society.
Oh, yes,
and she's just written a review for this book as well. She's a fabulous reader, and I know a fan and a friend of yours, Jenny. And she said it is a wonderful book because it's just so easy to get absorbed into it, and right away you feel that you're in there with the characters and and the experiences that they have. So I think it's wonderful.
I thought that was a very good comment from her. I mean, that's what I write for. And when I'm looking at manuscripts, I'm looking for books that are going to take the reader on a journey.
And speaking of looking for manuscripts, of course, you are Wily Publications as well. And that's such an important part for budding authors and also established authors to have a publishing house here in Christchurch. And that's one of the reasons why you set that up, Jenny?
It came from, what happened when Hazard Press went broke or went into liquidation was that I had two books that were in the process of being published there. One was this novel, and the other was The Art of War, which they had just finished publishing. And we sold that out in 3 months.
Goodness.
And I knew I was going to Europe to talk about it at a major conference in Europe, and I had no copies. So I sat down, I thought, what am I going to do? So we looked at getting other publishers involved. Finally, the best idea seemed to be to set up a small company, and that's what we did. And so the publishing company has grown from the fact that I didn't have a publisher suddenly, and that I needed one. And then I've started to develop other books, like the Crest to Crest, which is a collection of Canterbury writers. There are 74 writers in there. Some of them are well known, some of them are ones that have hardly had any publication at all, and that was the idea of it. And we put some
really good collection there.
Yes, yes.
I know, Jenny, also that you are looking for manuscripts as well, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We're always interested in seeing other people's manuscripts and seeing what they do. We are fairly limited in what we take, in that we do concentrate on my specialist fields of interest, historic fiction, or something to do with the heritage of the past. And we do try and keep to that, because the market is fairly limited and so are our resources, so it's better to do the things that we're really good at. However, if somebody comes with a superb book and I think it's wonderful, we'll certainly consider it.
That is good news. So good to see that, you know, you really are supporting authors here in Christchurch, because as any budding writer will know, it's a hard task, isn't it?
It's a terribly hard task. And one of the things I do is I actually teach creative writing at the university.
Brilliant.
As well. So I get a lot of people through those classes who are struggling to get publishers, and I know how hard it is for them. And that's
right.
part of the idea behind Crest to Crest, was to give these sort of people a chance, because if they can go to someone and say, I have been published, they're in a much better position.
Jenny, thank you so much. We do have 2 of these books to give away, which we will give away next week on Good Living. Jenny, thank you so much for writing those. It's been wonderful to chat with you, and thank you for joining us on the show today. We hope you have enjoyed it. Now tomorrow, don't forget, it is Baking Friday, so stay tuned for that. And we also ask Millie how. I'd love to see you tomorrow. Take care.